Chris starts. Oh my goodness, you are all set up.
I know. I had some time.
That is not what I have.
I don't know.
You have no idea what I use, do you?
Nope. I have no idea. This is going to be a learning experience for me.
I don't think you got a single one right.
Really?
Oh, you did get the controller right. Okay.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Welcome back to Pride and Accomplishment. I'm Chris.
And I'm Jason. This is episode 51.
Jason, today I wanted to take a look at our gaming peripherals. So what are the things that we have on our desk or kind of in our space that we use in order to play games in the most comfortable way? And I know this is a very personal kind of a thing for people, so I think we'll have a lot of differences here.
I've went through a lot of iterations, I think, of this, where I've kind of tried different keyboards and mice and headsets, and I'm glad we're having this conversation like now and not say when we started PNA, because I feel like I was still kind of finding what I wanted and what I liked. But I feel that the setup I have right now is almost perfect for me. Like, I really like what I have in front of me today. But it's taken me a while to find it.
Yeah, I think for me, I turn over my stuff every like 3 or 4 years. I end up with like a new keyboard or new mouse or something, and everything kind of just like piecewise gets replaced little by little with new shiny things. So I guess I've had a long road to get here, but my stuff has been fairly stable for the past couple of years as well, and I think I'm pretty happy with the system that I've got.
Well, I'll say I was kind of doing the same thing, right? Every time something kind of got old or stopped working or whatever, I would buy something different, right? And I love the idea that people use about cars, right? If something happened to your car today and you got a check for the value of the car and you were forced to buy a new one, which one would you get, right? And if you don't say this same exact car, like, think about it, right? But I feel like applying that to my current setup, right? If something happened to my mouse or something happened to my keyboard or my headset, and I had to buy, like, my headset fell and broke and whatever, I would right now, in this moment, I would buy the exact same set of peripherals, and I'm really kind of happy about that.
I would say that that's not necessarily true for me. So we'll see how this goes as we go through it.
I think a good idea is maybe to go by type. So starting with something, and then we can both talk about it. Because I think you're right. I think that each one of our decisions is very kind of personal, but also I don't know about you, but I don't have kind of a set. Like, my mouse, my keyboard, my headset, they aren't all the same company. They aren't all from the same, like, sometimes things are sold together. Mine are all very individual. Yours are like that too, I think.
Yeah, so I started off with trying to have everything I had in my gaming life be Logitech. So I had one like Logitech G software in order to control it all. And over the past couple of years, I have drifted from that, and now I have a mix of everything is different. No, that's not true. My headset and my keyboard are from the same company.
But you didn't do it on purpose.
No, I didn't do it on purpose. I just kind of lucked into it. For a long time, I really liked all of that Logitech stuff. Like, Logitech was really firing on all cylinders, and then I kind of broke a couple of their headsets and decided to shift off of that, and slowly but surely kind of moved on keyboard wise and everything else. So anyway, we can get into it, talk about it when we get into it.
Well, what do you want to start with?
Let's start with the keyboard, I think. So I have a Corsair K95 Platinum keyboard with Cherry MX brown switches. So it's a mechanical keyboard with brown switches. And I really like this keyboard, although I will say that I do keep fiddling with it a little bit. I really like the mechanical keyboard and the brown switches because they're clicky, but they're not too clicky. So like a blue switch is a little bit too clicky for me. I've experimented with putting little rubber O-rings on every single key, like popping off every key in my keyboard, putting a little, rubber O-ring around its little post, and then putting it back on the keyboard. And that was okay, but it made it a little mushy, but it made it quieter. And that was really the goal there, was to make it so it wasn't so loud, because I got made fun of on a meeting one time for typing too loud because I use this setup for work as well. But I'm generally pretty happy with it. I really like the mechanical keyboard feel and all of that.
what sets your K95 apart from other Cherry switches, from other Cherry mechanical keyboards?
I would say that for me, it's the brown switches, right? I wanted something that was the actual Cherry MX brown switches. And a lot of gaming keyboards will be like, oh, we have our own Razer switches, or we have, Logitech has their own switches, and they're like comparable too. And I was like, no, I want to be able to say like I have brown, because I have a DOS keyboard, Cherry MX brown keyboard at work. And I like that. Like those switches are good. And so I said, okay, I want to use this, because before that I had a Logitech G something or other that had the Roamer G switches that are like their own Logitech switches. And they were fine. They were pretty good. But then I had this other one at work, and I was like, oh, my next personal keyboard, I want to get something with brown switches. And so I did. If I was going to, if it were to break tomorrow and I had to replace it, I might get the same one. But I also would kind of, I think, look into more of the customizable, like, I don't know, boutique mechanical keyboards that people have now. So like I have a 10 key number pad on here, and I have never had a keyboard that doesn't have a 10 key. And I don't think I want to go to this like small keyboard life that everyone kind of seems to be gravitating towards these days, but I don't know.
I won't get there. I'll never get rid of that that numpad.
I like typing numbers in on the number pad. Like I call me crazy, but I really do.
And I use it. Well, I do the same thing, right? I also use this for work. So I use it a lot. I'm not just using this keyboard for gaming or for personal. I'm also using it for work. So I'm typing numbers a lot.
Yeah. The other thing about the Corsair is that it is an RGB keyboard, right? So it has backlighting and RGB lights and all of that. I've actually started to feel like I'm maybe getting past the point of wanting to have an RGB keyboard, like needing to have an RGB keyboard. I don't change the lighting all that often. And I think I would be okay if I didn't have a lighted keyboard. I don't do right now anyway, any of the animated stuff. Sometimes I'll use like little rainbow swiping thing, but like I don't know, it's feeling more and more gimmicky, I guess, as I get older. And so maybe I'm just old.
I never have changed the keyboard from the default. Well, maybe let's talk about, I'll introduce mine. So I use the Logitech G915 keyboard, and I absolutely love it. But, on the topic of RGB, it is an RGB keyboard. I have never changed it from the default. I don't even know how. I just don't care to. I like, the reason I like RGB keyboards is because they are the best backlit keyboard that I ever come across. And I like a backlit keyboard. If I could change this to like a white backlight or a blue backlight and just keep it static like that, I could probably figure it out and just do that. I don't care enough. It's a rainbow pattern that like slowly, like rolls across the keyboard. I don't really care. As long as I can see the letters backlit, that's kind of the value to me. And this keyboard does not come in non-RGB, format. So I just get it. I love this keyboard though. This is the perfect keyboard for me. I really like like a shallow travel on a key, and I really like clicks. So if I was going to use a cherry switch, I would use a blue, but I think the travel distance on a blue is too far. And I think the keys are too large. I like my hand to kind of sit a little lower on the keyboard. I don't know. It's just, it's weird. So I'm kind of getting to like laptop style keyboard. So like the Magic keyboard for the Magic Apple keyboard, right? Just the generic, like regular keyboard. Love the profile of it. I like how thin it is. I like the travel distance. I would probably use that keyboard for everything if it was clicky. I like the click as well. So this keyboard is a shallow travel, clicky, shallow keyboard. It's a thin keyboard. It's really, really thin. I love it. I love the experience of typing on it. I actually own 2 of these keyboards. I have one for home when I'm sitting at my desk at home, and I've actually also purchased one for work. So anytime I go into work and have to use my laptop at work, I'm using the same exact keyboard.
Wow.
I also love the Logitech programmable keyboards on the left. I use them for muting Discord and unmuting Discord, and I love the volume roller is smooth, right? So I can just like flick it and volume all the way up. I like the play and pause button. They work great. And then just everything, everything about it is so good. And it's small enough that I could like throw into a, it's thin. So like you just kind of throw it into like a side, like the side of a piece of luggage. If you're traveling, I take the one from work and I just throw it into the side of a carry-on because it's real thin. Great keyboard. And it's an aluminum body. So it's like really like heavy and strong and, braided cable. Oh, it's just a wonderful keyboard. And I've purchased 2 of them. I am considering purchasing a backup just to have it if anything ever goes wrong. I've never liked a keyboard so much. Now it doesn't have a standard switch. It is the equivalent of a Cherry Blue, but it's not a standard switch. It's Logitech specific.
I think now that they're using the colors, I would be more okay with that. Like, I just want to know, like, is this comparable to a Cherry, blue, brown, red, whatever. And so for me, I think that I like the browns, but I'm glad that you found one that you like with the blues. That keyboard looks way skinny for me. Like, it looks like it would be too slim on the desk for my preferences.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a traditional keyboard, right? It's not like when you think of a keyboard, you're thinking of something that is like, I don't know, a ½ inch thick.
Yeah.
Right? That's if you were to pop one of your keys off. These are from the bottom of the keyboard, like where that sits on the desk. Sorry, I'm kind of looking at it. To the top of an unpressed key is maybe a ½ inch total. And it's just so cool. And the travel distance on a key is, I'm sure I could look at the specifics, but it is, maybe 2 or 3/10 of an inch. It's really, really small, but it still does a click, and it's just great.
Yeah, I used to have a Logitech G915, which is more of a traditional looking keyboard. It actually looks very similar to my Corsair here. And I forget why I swapped it. I think it was for the switches. I had my eye on something with real Cherry switches, and then finally there was a sale or something, or an opportunity to get this Corsair one, and so I took it, and I've been happy with it. So here's to many more years of that. My favorite keyboard, well, not my favorite keyboard, but my first kind of dedicated gaming keyboard was the Logitech G15. I don't know if you ever had one of those, but it was the one with the little screen.
Yeah, I had one.
Did you have the blue one or the orange one?
I had the blue one.
Me too. Yeah, they later on in the generation, they still called something the G15, but it was like all orange and black with like the screen wasn't adjustable. Like you couldn't flip the screen up and down. It was just kind of fixed in the keyboard. But that thing was so cool because it was like, oh man, I can put my, game stats, like Civilization 5, I believe it was, maybe even 4, was able to show you like game stats on the little screen on the keyboard. And that was just kind of neat. These days, they've tried to transition that into the screen thing into something you do on an app on your phone.
Yeah, and it's just not the same. It's not like I liked having something that was kind of at a glance right below me. I used it for like CPU metrics and stuff like that. Not very many of the games I played actually had integration, but I just liked having some kind of information like always there. I used it for Ventrilo. It had Ventrilo integration.
Yeah.
So you know how Discord has an overlay now that you can do during a game. I don't like the overlay. I don't like cluttering the UI that's already built by the game. But there was just this little screen that was down there on your keyboard that it was like, who the heck is talking right now? Or like, who just joined the channel or whatever. You could look down at the screen on your keyboard and it was just like a little Ventrilo stats. I loved that.
Yeah, I actually still have my G15. I use it as a spare keyboard. Like if I need to work with a, hobby computer or something, I just plug in the G15. Mine was so old, like I used it for so long that the backlight started to go. So it like flickers like a horror movie. So moving on from keyboards, maybe we should go to the other thing on the desk, which is the mouse.
I also love my mouse and I could talk about it forever. But I know that you have a very interesting mouse setup that I am going to try very hard not to make fun of you for.
Thank you.
And I mean, I kind of get it. I kind of don't. But do you want to tell everyone else what you do?
So I have 2 mice connected to my computer. I have a Logitech G602, which is a wireless kind of traditional gaming mouse type of a thing. It has 6 thumb buttons, which I really only use 2 of them for like forward and back. I didn't get it because it has 6 thumb buttons. I got it because it was on clearance at Best Buy for like $14, and that was amazing. But the other mouse that I have is a Logitech G600, which is the, kind of stereotypical MMO mouse, right? It's like a Razer Naga. No, Razer... I forget what that one is. But anyway, it's the one with 12 thumb buttons in addition to 3 top buttons, actually. So it has a regular right click and left click, and then it has a G shift button, they call it, or it's just really just a third button for your ring finger that I never use. So the reason that I do this is because when I play MMOs or if I play Dota, I actually really like to have those thumb buttons, and I use them extensively. Whereas when I play shooters, I don't want to have a mouse that's that wide. Also, kind of daily mousing I will do with the G602, which allows me to kind of, it's wireless. It just kind of fits in your hand nicely. But I don't know. I switch between them fairly often. And everyone seems to make fun of me for this. And I don't know. I don't find it so unreasonable.
How often do you... do you play FPS games enough to need to, does it... I don't. The reason I make fun of you is all mice now have multiple profiles and you can switch. What benefit is it? Just like in your head kind of thing, or is it do you actually feel it? Is it actually a difference?
It's the hand feel. So the 602 has a contoured thing where you can rest your thumb down on it and it just kind of glides on the whatever. It's got kind of like a curve, and you can rest your thumb on it, and your thumb is sliding around, but not sliding on the desk, and you don't have to hover your thumb or use it to squeeze on the mouse or anything. It's just a really comfortable place to put your thumb. Whereas the G600, the MMO one, right, it has buttons all along the side on this big, tall, flat side. So you have to kind of pinch it. You always have to, or always kind of keep your thumb kind of hovering in midair. Or else you'll be touching the buttons. I mean, and touching the buttons is fine. And I've gotten pretty good at being able to manipulate that mouse without clicking any of the buttons, using some kind of tension between kind of the bottom of my thumb and then my pinky to use it to pick up a reposition or something like that. Because again, if you squeeze it, you're pressing those buttons. So you get used to it. But I prefer the feel of the 602, when I'm not needing the features of the 600. Now, sometimes I'll forget, and I'll, finish playing, a night of WoW or something like that. And then in the morning come, sit down to work at this desk and keep using that mouse for a little bit. And then I kind of realize oh, this isn't as comfortable as it usually is. I think I'm going to switch mice. And then I just, I always keep them both on my desk. And one of them is wireless. So it's pretty easy to kind of just shuffle it around. It kind of has a spot. I thought about trying to 3D print a little cradle for it so it could stand vertically on the desk, just because I think that would be cool. But I don't really have those CAD skills.
Oh, that'd be cool.
But it's just a system. It's my system, and it works for me.
Is the wireless G602 your default mouse?
I would say yes. It's generally the one I would consider to be the default, except for if I'm playing WoW or Dota. Whereas in Dota, I actually use those 12 buttons, and I map them to the top 6. I map them to the 6 of your inventory in exactly the same order that they are on the screen. So I'm okay, this thing is on the bottom, my kind of front thumb button. Okay, got it. Right. Or it's the Z key on the keyboard. It maps kind of one-to-one that way. And then the bottom 6 are less specific, and I use them for quick buy and, I actually have too many buttons for Dota in that case. But in WoW, I just have them mapped all the way 1 through $, all 12 buttons across the top.
So along my journey, I did try a Razer Naga that had 12, I think it was 12 buttons. And I just found that I could never learn to use them. I think it was probably twofold. One, I could just never find where my thumb was without thinking about it because there were so many. And it was harder for me to think about what button to push on the mouse than it was for me to just push the button on the keyboard. And it was also, I found, really tough to push the buttons without moving the mouse. So have you... I guess my first question is are these buttons comfortable to push, and have you found that you've really learned how to utilize them?
Yes. So just like I was saying a minute ago, I have a very specific way that I map them for these two games that I really use this for. And I have found that I can't do anything fancier in WoW than making them just 1 through equals, because like you could say like, oh, well, you're always within reach of 1 through 5. And I actually do press 1 through 5 on the keyboard most of the time. But whenever I have something that's kind of off, on the 6, 7, 8, 9, 0 kind of realm, yes, I should remap those to letter keys. I know. But what I've chosen to do instead is I have them on the mouse. And so the G600 is really nice in that it has the 12 buttons in kind of 2 groups of 6. And they have this little divot, like they kind of, or not divot, but they're kind of concave into like a little bowl shape or something like that, or like a U shape kind of. They angle in. And they have little, how like on the F key and the J key on your keyboard, they have little bumps. So they have a little bump on the 5th and the 7th kind of buttons. So you can tell without looking where you are kind of on those buttons with your thumb. So I've actually learned pretty well to navigate that. And I can, something kind of funny is I can actually put in my Windows passcode for my account using just the mouse buttons with the numbers, like, because I have them kind of memorized because they map 1 through equals. So I can press the buttons on the mouse instead of on the keyboard. I don't know why I need to do that occasionally, but if my hands are full or something and I just have one hand and for some reason don't feel like, typing it on the number pad, I can do it on the mouse.
If I were to say like you had to hit the 10 key, right, which is the bottom leftmost key if you're looking at it in numpad kind of format, is that something that you could pretty much like just do without like just like?
No, I have to count.
You have to count. Okay, that's what I always had to do. And I just felt like I could never find, like, it was always just faster. If I was going to have to look or count, it was faster for me to like literally pick up my hand and move it to the 0 key or something.
But that's the thing, is I have muscle memory for certain tasks in WoW. Like I'm like, oh, that's the interrupt button. Like actually that 10 button is my interrupt in WoW. And then the one behind it, which is I think the minus key is set as my blink as a mage.
And interrupt is a very timely thing. So you can get, what you're saying is you can get to that button in a timely fashion to interrupt.
Yes, because I have the muscle memory to do it.
Gotcha. I never developed it. And I don't know if the Razer Naga's layout when I had it was less intuitive. I do remember it being, I'm looking at a picture of the G600 now and I see what you're saying about the concave kind of, bowl of each group of 6. And I think that would help a lot. I think you would get like, there'd be less counting and more feeling where you are, which allows you to develop muscle memory. Whereas the Razer Naga, when I used it, was like a very like straight number pad, and only the center button had kind of the bumps on it. So you were just like, where the heck is my thumb right now? I got to count where I need to go. And you just, by the time you found which button to press, it was too late.
And that's why in Dota I really like it, because I can look on the screen and I see the layout of the 6 items in the inventory, and I know exactly what that means to my thumb to push those buttons.
Right. It's more spatial than actual like number.
I don't think like, oh, that's number 3, or oh, that's the X key or something. Like I'm not thinking of it that way. I'm thinking, okay, that's this slot, and I know that maps spatially exactly as it looks on screen to on the mouse.
Yeah, that's cool. That works really nicely.
So we've talked a lot about my mouse situation. What you've got going on, Jason?
I have a mouse with a lot of buttons as well. And like I said, I really liked the concept of the Razer Naga, or in this case, the Logitech G600 with a lot of buttons. However, based on what we just talked about spatial, right? I wanted something that wasn't a number pad, but that was kind of like a lot of buttons, but they were more kind of spatially located. So I have the Steelseries Rival 500, and I also love this mouse. It's just so good. And let me tell you why. So it has, I'm looking at it right now. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 buttons that you can hit with your thumb, but they are not organized in a number pad. They are organized kind of like in like a pattern around your thumb, where you roll your thumb in a certain direction and you kind of just like click it, right? Like if you roll your thumb down, you would like trigger one of the buttons that kind of like rests below your thumb. And it's one of those ones that's like really easy to press. So they actually allow you to lock it on the bottom of the mouse, but you could roll your thumb up and like back towards you. And that's a button, or straight up and that's towards you, or like a little bit forward. And that's a different one. Or you can depress your thumb into the mouse and that's a button. So it's all about like, just like where you're, and then there's some other ones like, to the left and the right of your index finger and your middle finger. But I like it a lot because I use it kind of a lot as modifier keys. So a good example is like say in Destiny, to crouch or to slide, which is the more important one, you have to push the control key. But also in order to slide, you have to push the shift key because you have to be running in order to slide. Well, try clicking the shift key and the control key on your keyboard right now in your left hand. You can do it. It's possible, but it's not comfortable. So what I've done is I've left the shift key on my keyboard, but the roll action for my thumb down is the control key in almost every game I ever play. And that allows me to kind of alternate left and right, or push both of them at the same time, both of them on my leftmost finger, which is kind of nice. In Warframe, it's even more important because in order to do the movement called a bullet jump, you have to be running, or you should be running to go fast. So you have to hold the shift key, and then you have to alternate between the control or the crouch and the space bar. So try doing that on your keyboard. It's almost impossible. Like to me, I just can't do it. So what I do is I hold the shift key with my pinky and I alternate between my two thumbs. I roll my one thumb on my mouse, I click the space bar, and then I roll my thumb on my mouse and I click. So you're alternating, and it's a much easier kind of motion. Same thing for like hitting and a melee attack. I always put that in a certain position on the mouse. I have no idea what the button's called. I have no idea what number is assigned to it, but I always put the melee attack on my mouse as a certain action. And that works really well for me because it's enough buttons on my mouse, but I never have to go searching for them. They're always it's always a spatial movement rather than a number.
Yeah, I think that's how you have to do it. You can't translate that stuff in your head, I don't think. I have the same thing with the G602 where I have 6 thumb buttons. I really only use like 2 or 3 of them, but I have one of them that is kind of the finisher and one of them that's the melee action in Destiny, which I really like.
I like this mouse so much that I have 3 of them, and 2 of them are in reserve. I was worried for a while that they were going to discontinue it, so I bought a couple extras.
I was just looking. I think they did discontinue it.
They may have discontinued it. I have many extras. One of them I use as an extra, or also my travel mouse. One of them is literally just sitting in my closet, still wrapped, and then one on my desk. Now this mouse is not the same as kind of my keyboard. This is not one I would be like, oh, I have to use this for work as well. This is definitely aimed at gaming. At work, I just use a regular old like Logitech mouse. So I like this mouse a lot, and I for anything that's gaming related, I would always use it. But it's not like the keyboard where I like literally can't live without it.
So how do you map your macro keys for your mouse? Like when you are talking about setting that melee up in Destiny, do you go into the game settings and say like, let me remap this button, and then it says like press the key you want, and then you press the mouse button? Or do you use the mouse software to make it press the key on the keyboard that does the same thing?
Yeah, really good question. I always keep it on the keyboard. I always keep the keys to their defaults or to something that I would press on the keyboard, and then use the mouse software to map that to whatever key it is. I always have the mouse as a secondary option that typically turns into the primary use, but it's not. I always keep it on the keyboard.
I do the same thing as much as I can. Although, except for in Destiny, I believe I actually have used it to map the buttons. I actually think this is a reason that games should have 2 mappings for every like input option.
Oh, a primary and secondary? Absolutely.
Like a way to map 2 different functions, or heck, maybe even 3 or 4. I don't know. Why not? And make it so that I can map a keyboard function and a mouse function to the same, game action. In Destiny, like I said, I think it does let you do that, maybe. And so I have it set to, actually go off of, mouse 7 or whatever the button is that the button is. But on the G600, I use the Logitech software to make it press keyboard keys, because I also want to keep it so that if I don't have that mouse for whatever reason, if I am like syncing settings to a laptop and I don't have that G600 with me, then I want to be able to press the buttons in the game and not be like, oh no, that's mapped to the mouse I don't have with me.
Right. Same exact. Like I always prefer the ability to do something. The mouse makes it more comfortable.
Yes.
I find it interesting that you use a wireless mouse. Actually, I have to say, I really don't like wireless peripherals.
Why?
I'm not really concerned about the latency thing. I think they've pretty much solved that problem, but the battery thing drives me nuts. That is like, I had a wireless headset for a while, and I also had a wireless mouse for a while. Now, they were the rechargeable kind, so that, they had between 18 hours or whatever and 20 hours and maybe they have gotten better with time, but I despised when my headset was going dead or my mouse was like, hey, you only have 2 hours left. And I was just like, no, that's not acceptable. And I always found myself just wanting to get away from that as much as possible. And I always, no matter what I'm going to buy now, even the things that you can buy that are wireless that you can plug in and continue using normally, which is most things now, I actually prefer a wired setup.
Yeah, I used to be like that, or I still am in a lot of ways. But for the 602, I wasn't looking for a wireless mouse when I got this thing. But again, it was kind of an opportunity thing where it was on clearance. I was actually seeing that there were G600s on essentially clearance, and then there was a 602 in the same display. And I was like, man, for like $50, I can get 2 G600s and this wireless 602. I think I'll just give that a try, even though I haven't, researched it or tried it or anything. It was a real impulse buy, and it's turned out nicely, because I've had a G502 in the past, which is wired, and a couple of other Logitech kind of FPS style mice that were good. And I'll say that for the batteries on this one, I probably change the batteries every, 6 months. I mean, it's a long period of time because it takes 2 AA batteries. It's not rechargeable. And it seems like the things that take actual batteries last a lot longer than the ones that are rechargeable, and I'm not sure why, but I don't mind it. This one is fine, and it's kind of nice, like I said, to have it be wireless so that I can just kind of move it around on the desk when I'm not using it because of my weird 2 mouse setup. I don't have to worry. That's one less cord to have to get tangled up. I will say that I don't have any interest in a wireless keyboard because I don't mind having the wire from the keyboard, because the keyboard doesn't move, right? There's nothing to get in the way with it. It doesn't, it just sits there, and then the wire can go back to the back of the desk, and that's totally fine. Now, this discussion on wired versus wireless is probably a great transition into the headset realm.
Yes, because I have tried many wireless headsets in the past, and every time I'm just like, nope. Great. Nope. And I've always come back to a wired headset, and you live by, like, it is part of your online Discord identity that you have a wireless headset.
Yeah. So a while ago, I would say probably, 6-7 years ago, I got my first wireless headset. It was a Logitech G9 635, 935. I don't know, one of those Logitech ones. And I have never turned back from the wireless side of things since then, because I really like being able to stay on comms on Discord and, go down to the kitchen and get a snack or get a drink or, whatever, and not have to like deal with kind of having a wire that goes back to my, desk and having to worry about it if I like stand up and manage it. I did for the longest time, and it's fine. I can do it. But the flexibility of having a wireless headset is really valuable to me. The other key feature of the wireless headset for me is it has to have a flip up boom that mutes the mic, because I want to be able to control like with a physical thing. I want to be able to like know, am I in muted state or not muted state? If it's just a software thing, then I'm going to forget. Like I want to be able to mute myself instantly with a tactile thing.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I even sitting down right at your computer, I think that's a great feature.
Yeah, even when I'm sitting in my computer, I will flip up the mic. You know, if my wife walks in and I want to talk to her, like I flip up the mic and I can talk to her, and I know that I'm not talking to Discord at the same time. Not like, oh, did I push the right button? Did I forget to unmute? Like all that kind of stuff. And then if I do forget to unmute, like it's very easy to tell. I can just reach up to my ear and like see like, okay, is the boom like, is it next to my cheek or is it next to my, you know, pointing straight up? And I really value that level of kind of mute unmute flexibility. So my current wireless headset is a Corsair Void Pro wireless. And this checks all those boxes. It has, you know, it's wireless. It has the flip up boom to mute, and it does have, you know, rechargeable battery, but I have a little setup where I have a USB brick that's just on my desk, and it has a really short little micro USB cable, and my headset just has a spot where it lives when I take it off, and I always plug it in every day, and it lasts plenty of time. Like I never have it run out in a single day when I'm using it.
How long does it last if you were to go on a 48-hour, you know, gaming marathon? Would it die?
Yes, I think it would last probably 8 or 10 hours, maybe 12.
You don't ever game for more than 8 or 10 hours? Or like, do you wear it during work or no?
I do not. I don't wear it during work. When I do calls for work, I just use the speaker and do it that way.
Gotcha. So, but you've never, like, on a weekend, you know, wife's out of town, you just want to game all day. Like, you've never gotten to the point where you're just like, oh my gosh, my headset's going to die.
Very, very rarely. I think maybe there's been a marathon Factorio session or two that it's beeped at me a little bit. But generally, no, it's actually very robust. Like I've never really had it where it's like, oh yeah, your headset's about to completely die. At least not with this Corsair one. With my Logitech ones, they would start to die. And at one point, one of them just started to randomly reboot itself. And so it got replaced pretty quickly. But this Corsair one has been rock solid in that regard.
If you did run into a problem, can you charge it and use it at the same time?
I think you can, but I've never done it. I'm pretty sure you can. I'm pretty sure.
It's a good headset.
My runner-up for that would be the Logitech G Pro, but that thing is very expensive compared to what I got. I think I got this for like $50, and the G Pro was like 150 or something like that.
Yeah, this one's retail is 100, but I think you got it on a great deal. Got it Black Friday or so. I remember you talking about it.
Yeah, it was like almost like a misprice from Best Buy because I bought it at Best Buy.
I have a very sturdy, lives up to my abuse Astro A40 TR, plus the MixAmp. So I love this headset. It is like almost a metal, like it is a partly metal construction, which I really like about headsets. It is heavy, which I also like about headsets. I want it to kind of be, I want to feel that it's on. Some headsets are like, oh, you barely feel it. It's, as light as air. And I want to feel like I have a headset on. It's got a boom mic, but it does not mute when I flip it up. It actually has an inline kind of mute button on the cord. And that is a key part of this, is that it is wired. Astro does make some wireless headsets, but I have had bad luck with them. I've used an A50 before, and I don't like it. I used to do Razer stuff for headsets, and I don't really like them anymore. But no, this is great. It comes with a MixAmp, which I think is really cool, because it allows you to kind of do very light mixing. It plugs into your computer via USB and actually makes two channels available, two outbound channels available. So you actually have one for voice and then one for like everything else. So if I wanted to, if I was really into a game and someone was going off on Discord or something, I could actually mute the voice channel and not the game channel, or I could balance them kind of in real time using the MixAmp, which is really cool. This headset also works with PlayStation. So if I ever decided to actually use it with a PlayStation, it would work with PlayStation as well. But I really like the sturdiness of it. I am not gentle with my headset. I just never have been. And I've got a hook on my computer, and sometimes I miss. And this thing has definitely stood the test of time. I think this is the only one I've ever purchased, which is amazing to say about a peripheral for me. Maybe I've had one before. I don't know. This thing has really stood up. It's really, really durable. And that's important to me. Now, it is also quite expensive. I think the headset and MixAmp may be the most expensive peripheral I have on my desk. But I use it for...
We haven't talked about controllers yet.
Oh, dang it. I forgot about that. I use the headset for work. I use it all day. It is comfortable for me all day. It does get a little hot sometimes, like if it's hot upstairs or in my office, but it's great. I think it does the job for me. I think the microphone quality is really good. And it's not podcast mic level, but I think it's pretty solid for a headset mic.
The Astro A40 is the headset that I almost buy every time I need to buy a new headset. Like, I want one. It is so expensive. It's like $250. I want one, but it doesn't tick the wireless box. Like, that's really the biggest thing. Because then having the MixAmp in front of you and being able to kind of mute and work with that would be sufficient to kind of meet that requirement. But once I'm ready to kind of be done with the wireless world, which may be never, then I will strongly consider the A40.
Yeah, and it's so sad because like I really like the A40. I really like it, but it's not the A50, which is theoretically the next one up. I don't even know how much it cost. I would never recommend. It's $50 more. I would never recommend the A50, which is a wireless headset from Astro. I've just never had good luck with it. I think it's got poor quality. It's not as well built. It's got, a crappy mic in my opinion. And it's just amazing how I don't know if that's because it's wireless and it just, needs it can't do the same level quality. But if you were like looking for a good wireless headset, I couldn't recommend Astro. But you called out, you made a call out to something that may be more expensive on my desk than the Astro A40s. Okay, so Chris and I also do a little, he does a lot more, but we also do a little bit of console gaming. And I like Xbox controllers more than PlayStation controllers. But I always felt like the PlayStation controllers were better built. I always felt like they were higher quality in terms of like just an actual controller until the Xbox Elite controller. And the Xbox Elite One, the original Xbox Elite controller was pretty good. It was like a pretty good controller. And that's kind of what I liked and I used. And then they came out with the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller. And this thing is a beast. It is so good. It is so heavy. It has got like some metal construction to it. It is like, it feels solid. It's a great controller. It is so expensive.
Yeah, it's like a controller that costs as much as a Switch.
Yeah, I think its retail is like $240.
That is insane.
Yeah, I would not recommend buying one that's not on sale. At the same time, they're hard to find. Like, they go out of stock because they're so good of a controller. So I really like it. I have only ever needed one. However, I have heard that they actually have some reliability issues, like worse than regular Xbox controllers. I have heard I have one thing on it that is broken, It's one of the switches on the bottom that I never use. Like it's like a config switch that limits the how far you can pull the trigger. It has a cover on that switch, and that cover has fallen off. Now I can still use it, but it the cover has fallen off. It's just a really good controller. It is wireless, but I always leave it plugged in USB-C, and I like it a lot. I think it's a great controller. Would I buy this controller again if it were to break? Probably not. There are some other what I would call third-party controllers for Xbox out there now. My brother actually just recommended me one from I think the company's called Scuf.
Yeah, Scuf. Yep.
SCUF. They have essentially an Xbox Elite controller competitor that is all customizable and all that. I would just get black. But it's supposed to be just as nice. And it's about $100 cheaper. So that's probably what I would try next if something were to go wrong with this one. But I do really like the controller. I like how heavy it is. I like heavy, again, because I'm rough with my stuff. So like heavy stuff, durable stuff is important to me. And this one has done me really well.
I am rocking just a regular Xbox. I think it's an Xbox One controller. So it's the one that takes AA batteries. It's got a micro USB plug on it. I use it combination wired and wireless, usually wired, but recently wireless because I finally changed the batteries. I have to keep batteries in it to make sure it has the right weight. But for a while, I had just let the batteries die, and I was using a really long, actually, a charging cable that had come with a headset as a micro USB, just direct connection. And I never really could tell if it was powering the controller and then still connecting to the little wireless dongle, because I have like that Xbox wireless dongle, or if it was actually using the cable for data. But it doesn't really matter because it works great. I'm actually in the market for a new controller. I've been thinking that my current one is starting to, like, the sticks are starting to wear down a little bit. You know, like the little rubber grippy things on the sticks are starting to wear down. And I would like to have another, PC compatible controller, I would say. And I was looking at just kind of the Xbox Series whatever controller just to get like the new Xbox controller basically. And that one uses USB-C, which would be nice because it would match kind of the PS5 and all of that. But I haven't actually done that yet. And if I did that, I would get the little play and charge rechargeable thing, because I would like to have a rechargeable wireless controller for my PC like I do for my PlayStation. I actually prefer the design of the PlayStation controller to the Xbox controller, but for PC, I don't mind kind of working with the Xbox one. The only exception is when I play Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1 and 2 on the PC, I use a PS4 controller because it reminds me of my childhood playing on a PS1. So I'm a little nostalgic in that regard.
Okay, I did a little research while you were just talking there, and the MSRP of the Xbox Series Elite, the Xbox Elite Series 2 controller, is $180. So it's still expensive, but it's a little bit more reasonable than $240. I don't know. For that price, I might be able to, like, if someone really wants a high quality controller, I would probably recommend it. But I don't know that anyone needs a controller that nice.
I'm going to take a look at the Scuf one, and I think Astro also makes some custom controllers for this kind of stuff.
Yeah. This is actually an area I'm interested in some listener feedback. If you've got a controller you really like that, it is, I'm going to say that is not a standard PS5 or not a standard PS4 or Xbox One controller, let us know. I actually, again, I'm not in the market, but if something ever happens to mine, I would be interested in what other people use. Sounds like Chris actually is looking for recommendations.
Yes, I am right now. That would be great.
Chris, I find it surprising that you don't use a PS5 controller.
A reason I don't use a PS5 controller is because I only have one, and it's downstairs with the PS5, and they cost $70 to get new ones.
Do you like that controller better?
I do like that controller. I don't know if I would say better. I haven't actually tried to play much. I've played a little bit of Rocket League with it, because the thing I play on the controller mostly is Rocket League. I would say one of the major things... Oh, and I also play Sea of Thieves on the controller as well. One of the things that is important to me, and the reason I don't use a PlayStation controller for most things, is because many games don't automatically kind of adjust their button layouts. Like they will still say, like, press the A button when you would have to press the X button or the cross button on a PlayStation controller, which is fine. I mean, like, obviously I've been doing, playing games long enough that I know where the buttons are. If you say A button or B button on an Xbox controller, I know where it is on the PlayStation controller, but I just like them to match. Like, I like to feel like I'm using this as intended instead of kind of trying to shoehorn things through. And so I would rather play with an Xbox controller when I'm PC gaming than a PlayStation controller. Again, excepting for the Tony Hawk one, where Tony Hawk actually will switch all of its button prompts to the PlayStation buttons. Like, it puts little pictures of the PlayStation buttons on there if it recognizes that you're playing with a PlayStation controller.
I wonder if Sea of Thieves would do that. I have a feeling it would.
I have a feeling it would not, but I will actually test it today. We'll give it a shot.
I think that's it for standard peripherals for at least for us. I think the controller was maybe a little out there. We have decided we're not going to talk about monitors because I believe that may be a whole episode. And monitors, I think, are a pain to find what you want and describe why you like yours. And I think I just don't even want to get into it because they just stress me out.
Well, after that, we can talk about printers.
Oh, yeah, printers. Do you have, actually, real quick, do you have a printer in your house?
I do have a printer in my house.
Have you used it in the last 12 months?
I have always had a printer. Even in my dorm room in college, I had my own laser printer. I've had a printer forever.
I have a printer that I've never taken out of the box.
Wow. No, I really don't like to bring something to work to print it, or have to go to the library or the copy store or whatever. It's very important to me to be independent in my printing needs.
I have not needed to print something in at least 2 years.
No, I need to print things all the time. Well, sometimes I want to print out paper tickets or something, or I need to print out a form that I am taking to a doctor's office or something, to have it pre-filled. Or I want to make copies of something like a vaccination card, or just all sorts of things like that.
Just take a picture of it with your phone.
But I want to have the hard copy too.
Why?
In case I need it.
You can print it when you need it.
No, I like to have it, printed and filed somewhere. I also print my tax returns and keep a hard copy. Do
you save the copy of your vaccination card, for example, to the cloud?
I do have it saved in my iCloud photos, yes.
Okay. All right. That's, I guess, okay.
There are just many, many times when having a printer is better than not having a printer, in my opinion.
I have a printer. I agree. I have a printer. If there ever becomes a time that I need a printer, I will take it out of the box and plug it in.
I had to print a thing and physically hand sign it and mail it to my bank at one point. These things happen. They come up. I probably use my printer once every other month, maybe every third month.
Wow. Yeah, I just don't. Anyway, I have some other peripherals that I have listed down that I thought were kind of semi-related to game. Well, one of them is definitely related to gaming. I have 2 joysticks on my desk that this is a recent purchase. I've been talking about getting back into Elite Dangerous, some other flying games, and I wanted some joysticks. I did not go on with a HOTAS setup, which is hand on throttle and stick. I don't have a throttle. I actually have 2 full joysticks, because that is better for 6 degrees of freedom, for something like a space simulator. So that's what I went with. And I don't use them very much, but I'm not playing space games much right now. But I like having them. I think it's good. I enjoy, if I ever wanted to kind of whip them out, they're plugged in, ready to go, but, kind of sitting, they actually sit behind my monitors, so I don't see them, which is really nice.
I have not gotten onto the kind of custom peripheral or kind of niche peripheral train. I don't have a joystick or a steering wheel or anything like that.
Have you ever had one?
I had a racing wheel a long, long time ago, one that used that 15-pin joystick port that was on sound cards way back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and I used that to play Daytona USA, I believe it was, which was actually pretty fun. It was kind of like an arcade racing game. And that was a lot of fun, and I did enjoy working with that, but I don't think I had pedals. I've maybe owned one joystick, but I really didn't use it. It was something that was either a clearance thing or garage sale thing or something, and it just never really caught on for me. I don't play a lot of games though that would need it or use it. I don't really kind of like that kind of genre. If anything, I would probably get a wheel, but even that I can do with a controller.
I've been thinking about getting a wheel. I like racing games. My problem with a wheel is it's not something that you can just kind of like put off to the side when you're not using it. Whereas like these joysticks,
yeah, you don't just store a wheel,
right? These joysticks they're plugged in and they just sit behind my monitors, right? So it's like no problem that they're on my desk. Whereas like a racing wheel and pedals are like an investment in both like space and time anytime you want to use them. But I do play a lot of I like racing games. I want to whip Forza back out at some point, and I feel like a racing wheel would be so much fun. I just don't want to go through the hassle. Do you have any external sound producing devices on your desk? We talked about headsets, but
no, I don't have anything connected to my computer that makes noise. I exclusively use headsets. I think one of my monitors has the speaker in it, and I could use that to like just play some sound, but it wouldn't sound very good.
I have a sound bar on my desk. It is I don't know, 40 inches wide, and it sits under my monitors, kind of all the way back on my desk. And I love that I have a sound bar on my desk. It was meant for a TV, but I now have my TV kind of connected to my computer as my fourth monitor. And it has been like really cool. And there's a subwoofer over in the corner that connects to the soundbar. So anytime I'm like watching TV, or if I want to like play something super casually and I'm not really talking to anyone else, I can actually take off my headset and like pump the sound through my soundbar, and I like it a lot. If I'm like I also do it while I'm working and I'm not on any calls, and maybe I'm listening to a Twitch stream or something. I'll throw it on the soundbar, because it's just, it's way more relaxed, way more casual. And I kind of really like that. I think external speakers are kind of going away for a lot of people, right? Because laptops have them built in, or monitors have them built in, and they're good enough. But I really like having a speaker on my desk.
I have a Sonos One that I can play music to that sits on my desk, but my computer, I don't even think is able to play music to it, but I can AirPlay from my phone. So that's what I use if I want to listen to something without wearing headphones. But usually, even then, I will usually put my AirPods in to listen to music if I'm sitting at my desk.
The last thing is the bread and butter of my sound setup. I have a MIDI controller on my keyboard on my desk that is almost exclusively like mute and other buttons with sliders for volume. And I use a program called Voicemeeter that kind of lets me map all of the channels of all of the sound things on my computer and route them through all different kind of channels and inputs and outputs and all that. And I have each of those mapped to a spot or a slider or a button on my MIDI controller in front of me, and the MIDI controller lights up when I mute a certain channel and blah, 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 blah. So like if I have a Twitch stream open, Discord open, and I'm playing a game all at the same time, which it happens more frequently than I care to admit, I can adjust the levels of each of the programs kind of independently of each other. I can mute one. I can what goes through the soundbar and what goes through my headset is controlled by the MIDI controller in front of me. And I really, really like that. And I think it really, honestly, it's very important to my gaming setup, just because like, sometimes I want to like adjust levels of my game or my Discord kind of on the fly. And it's really, really easy to me. And I really like that it's a hardware thing. I like that it's a physical kind of thing in front of me and not something I have to do in software. I could just use Voicemeeter to kind of do the levels, with the software that's on the screen. But the fact that I can just kind of reach forward and push a mute button or push, or move a slider up and down is really, really cool.
Yeah, if I was more into kind of having 10 different things making noise at once, I would do the same thing that you've got there. I think having a physical control in front of you is basically required. I mean, I'd like to get something like a MIDI controller or like a Stream Deck or something like that to be able to kind of do shortcuts and do some controlling. Like right now when we're recording our podcast, I have a little soundboard app that I use to give myself little editing notes and things like that. And it can actually be controlled by a MIDI controller. So if you have like a drum pad or something like that, you can actually map all of these things on it to be able to fire off sound cues from the MIDI, like a physical MIDI controller. And I've thought about getting one and trying to use it, but I don't think I would actually use it. And I think it would just be too much on my desk. Right now, my desk is only 24 inches deep. And so I don't think I would have room for it. But if I get a 30-inch deep desk, I'll revisit. Well, Jason, that's a lot of stuff.
A lot of stuff. You got to get a bigger desk.
I know. It's on the list.
I recently bought a bigger desk, and it has been great for me. But I think there are a few things that are out of the ordinary for maybe me and you with that second mouse. But overall, the setup's pretty standard. It is quite expensive, right? When people talk about PC gaming or whatnot, a lot of money goes into your peripherals if you care. And it has been something that I've kind of poured a lot of time, a lot of thought, a lot of research into. It is a significant part of my PC gaming experience.
We'd love to hear from you and kind of what your setup is. Maybe even post a picture. I don't know. I have to clean my desk if I was going to post a picture. You can, as they say in the marketing world, join the conversation at discord.pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com. There you can chat directly with us. You can leave some feedback. You can give us some show ideas or topic ideas. We'd love to hear from you.
If you want to read the show notes for this episode, or listen to or see any of our previous episodes, you can visit us at pnapodcast.com. That's P, the letter N, the letter A, podcast.com. The show notes for this specific show will have links to all of the products that we talked about today on the show. Not that we're kind of encouraging you to go buy them, but if you want to look at them or kind of see like what we were talking about, there will be links to all of the products that we talked about today.
If you're enjoying the show, we just like it if you'd share it with your friends and see if maybe they have some thoughts on peripherals and whether or not me having two mice is a good or bad idea.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We'll talk to you next time. I wonder, so you get so much shit for the pizza thing. I wonder if you'll get any for the two mouse thing.
Yeah, I know. But at least, having two mice is apparently less controversial than ordering 5 pizzas that you're going to eat over the course of a week. In typical me fashion, you asked a couple of post shows ago about The Bad Batch. And I started watching The Bad Batch. I watched the first, 20 minutes of the first episode, and then I stopped watching it and I haven't come back to it. So just like Clone Wars, I'm just doomed to watch the first 20 minutes of the first episode repeatedly.
No. Did you not like it, or it just didn't grip you?
It didn't. I mean, it was pretty good, but it didn't like really grip me. Like it's an hour and 15 minutes long. I was just kind of like, well,
I put it on when I'm going to sleep.
Yeah, that's probably about the level of interest or commitment that I would want to have with it. But I was like, I don't know, eating dinner or something this week. And it was just me. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's something I could put on TV. And so I did. But then I was finished eating and I wanted or needed to do something else. So I did.